So by the end of this video, my goal is for you to know exactly how to silence that voice telling you that you are behind in life and start building genuine confidence in who you are as an individual. I think there comes a time somewhere in your 20s where you feel lost, like you're behind in life, everyone else has it figured out, you should have achieved or accomplished more by now, and the question gets asked in your mind, what's wrong with me? And I know what you're thinking. It's easy for you to say that, but I really am behind, right? I turned 28 in a few days, in like 3 days. And I can't tell you how many times I have thought over the past few years, I should be farther ahead by now. I should be further ahead in life. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why we tend to be this way and give you simple frameworks to break free from that mindset. Because right now, while you're watching this, there are millions of people in their 20s and 30s that are beating themselves up over imaginary deadlines. If you got big dreams and high expectations for yourself, I bet you know exactly what I'm talking about. That crushing weight of feeling like you're constantly disappointing yourself. And what I've come to understand is this. We've all absorbed these fake timelines that social media has shoved down our throats that are slowly destroying our mental health. Graduate by 22, land your career job by 25, have your life together by 30, get married, buy a house, become successful, all on some imaginary schedule that I don't think anybody ever voted on. And here's going to be the truth that changes everything for you because I know it changed it for me. You have to understand those timelines are absolute trash for most people in the real world. In a perfect world, sure, but we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live a perfect life. We live in the real world. We live and have a real life. Real life is messy, real life is unique, and real life is filled with plot twists, constantly made up and spontaneous as we go along throughout our lives. And that person that you're comparing yourself to on Instagram usually is one in a million, or more likely, they're probably having their own Tuesday morning breakdown in their car, wondering why they're not where so and so and this person and that person is. Our brain is actually hardwired this way, not that your brain is trying to hurt you, but the truth of the matter is it's wired that way. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But I spent years thinking that I was just a creative individual with commitment issues. And it turns out there's actual psychology behind why guys like us and people like us constantly feel like we are failing in life. Your brain has this thing that is called social comparison theory. Right? Basically, we're wired to measure our worth by looking at other people. It's helped our ancestors stay alive. But in this day and age, our brains have a hard time telling the difference between a life and death situation or survival situation and seeing your college buddy promoted, updating it on Instagram. It has a hard time telling the difference between the two. Because if you're like me, you're scrolling on social media at 2 a.m., seeing some dude from high school or college who just bought a house, and suddenly you feel like a complete failure because you're still renting a one-bedroom apartment with a roommate and dishes that are piling up. Literally my story before marriage. So here's what I finally figured out. When you stop comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, that is when you start to make progress. I know that's a cliche, but it's worth repeating. When you stop comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, that is when you're going to start making actual progress. When you begin to talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend when they make a mistake or feel down or feel behind, that is when you start making progress. When you realize that shame doesn't motivate you, but it actually paralyzes you, that is when you start making actual progress. When you start making these changes, you start making actual progress. And here's the negativity bias that is destroying you as well as millions of other people. A fun fact is our brain is naturally designed to focus on what is wrong. Psychologists call it the negativity bias. Like I was saying earlier, bad stuff gets 5 times more attention in our brain than good stuff. Why? Because however many years ago, the guy who remembered where the dangerous dinosaurs lived survived longer than the guy who remembered where those pretty flowers were. So when you think about your life, your brain automatically wants to zoom in on the job that you don't have yet, the relationship that didn't work out, the savings account that's embarrassingly empty, the dreams that you haven't achieved. Meanwhile, it's completely glossed over the fact that you are employed, you have friends and family who care about you, and you figured out how to not die for 20 plus years, even without having that much money. Right? You think everyone is watching and judging your failures way more than they actually are. It's called the spotlight effect. You assume you are the main character in everyone else's story, when the brutal truth is most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to really even care or notice yours. And the embarrassing thing that you did last week, the one that you keep replaying in your head, the thing that you're afraid to post, I guarantee you nobody else is thinking about it or is going to remember it because they're too busy replaying their own embarrassing moments or worrying about their own stuff that's going on in life. Again, if you're someone with big dreams and high expectation, which let's be honest, I think describes a lot of people in our demographic, our age group, these psychological quirks hit hard. We're told that we should be ambitious. We should want more. We should never settle. But nobody mentions that ambition without understanding how our brain works is just a recipe for constant self torture. See, your brain sees the gaps between where you are and where you want to be. And instead of thinking, cool, I have direction, it thinks, danger, you're failing. Now, you have all these things that are going on in your head psychologically, and now you throw in social media into the mix, and you got the perfect storm for psychological misery, right? Every day, you're force fed highlight reels of people's best moments while your brain is already primed to compare, to focus on negatives, and assume everyone is judging you. You see, society has evolved to become the almost worst environment that triggers our worst psychological tendencies. But the good news is once you understand that this is happening in your brain, you can actually do something about it because now you are self-aware of that. So here is my 5-step solution that actually works for me, and I'm hoping is a blessing to you and works for you as well. Number one, you got to call out that fake timeline. I talked about it earlier, but next time you catch yourself thinking, I should be further ahead by now, pause and ask, says who, right? Who says? Instagram? Your parents? Some teacher from high school who peaked in the 2000s? Write down where this should is coming from. And I guarantee you, 99.9% of the time, it is not from you. And writing in general helps so much to really just declutter your brain, or using some sort of Notion or AI, Cortex, whatever, to help you declutter your brain and organize your thoughts is a game changer. I highly recommend that you do that. But number one, you have to call it that fake timeline and pause and ask who says. Number two, talk to yourself like your best friend. And before I really break this down, I like to tell this story about our word and our use of language to others as well as to ourselves, right? And it's something that was told to me when I was a teenager, and it's always stuck with me. So here's the story, right? There's a story of a Major League Baseball player who's speaking to inmates in prisons. One of the inmates asked the baseball player, "How did you become a professional ball player, sir?" To which he says, I think it started when I was a boy. I would play catch with my dad, and he would always say, "You keep throwing the ball like that, son, and you'll end up in the major leagues one day. You keep swinging a bat like that, son, and you'll end up in the major leagues one day." And here I am, a professional ball player. The room became quiet, and the inmate who asked the question said, the same thing happened to me. When I was a boy, my father told me I was good for nothing, and that one day I would end up in prison. And here I am. And here he was, fulfilling that negative prophecy. This story illustrates the profound impact of words. Now consider another story of a little girl. She's in a grocery store with her mother, and she drops a bottle of milk on the floor, breaking it. And the mother said, "You dumb child. Why would you do that?" Now consider the story of another little girl in the grocery store with her mother. She drops the bottle of milk on the ground, breaking it. And the mother chuckles, says, "Man, that was a very dumb thing that you did." The verbiage changes ever so slightly, but which child do you think will grow up to have a healthier self-image and more self-confidence? The one who was called dumb, or the one whose action was called dumb? We've always heard that phrase, "Sticks and stones can break our bones, but words can never hurt me," right? Well, the truth is because sticks and stones, they can't break your bones, but words, what they do is they break our hearts. And if we're not careful, your words can shatter your dreams. Now, I want to put that all in there to tell you how you speak to yourself is so important. Imagine your closest friend just told you about their biggest failure. What would you say to them? Now say that same exact thing to yourself. If you wouldn't tear down your best friend for making a mistake or feeling like they're behind, why the heck would you speak to yourself that way? That's the challenge to you is number two, talk to yourself like your best friend. Stop being the worst coach in the world to yourself and give yourself the same advice that you would give a best friend in your situation. Number three, compare yourself to yourself. The truth is, almost everyone feels behind, feels lost, they feel insecure, even the ones that you think are ahead. Instead of measuring yourself against some stranger's social media profile, ask, am I closer to my goals than I was last month or last year? Progress is progress, even if it's slow, and especially if it's slow. That's number three. Compare yourself to yourself and nobody else. Number four, embrace the mess. I know that's cliche. I know it is, but your failures aren't proof that you are broken. They're proof that you are trying. Every time you fall down and get back up, you're building something that cannot be taught, and that is resilience. All throughout my 20s, I have failed at jobs. I have failed at careers. I have failed so much in life. I am in more debt now than I was in my early 20s because of my failures. But everything has led me up to be the man I am today and what I am doing today, which is growing my personal brand and posting it on social media. Those failures haven't changed my entire career path and dare I say my entire life. And right now, I can, if I sit and bask in those failures, they will stay that failures. But if I continue to move forward and fail forward, they will become lessons in my overarching story that I can then help and share with other people. And that is the thing that I need you to understand is you have to embrace the mess and understand that there are always going to be failures. You cannot be perfect at everything. You cannot be perfect at anything, I dare say. So you have to understand that your failures only stay failures if you stop moving forward. So keep moving forward and embrace that mess. Last but not least, practice the so what method. It's very similar to the first one, but when that inner critic starts talking, try this. I failed at this thing. You have to say, so what? I'm behind everyone else. According to who? I should have figured it all out by now. Says what timeline? That I absorbed from society. See, I'm not just trying to force what some may call toxic positivity. What I need you to understand here is you have to challenge your thinking because it is naturally negative. That inner critic is going to be naturally negative, and you have to say, so what, and challenge that on a daily basis. You have to do that. I'm trying to help you remember that most of our self-criticism is just old programming that does not serve us anymore. Question every rule that you throw at yourself, every criticism that pushes itself into your brain. Over time, you will question it. And once you do that in enough time, it will help you remove them altogether because you're not a failure for being on your own timeline. We still have our whole lives ahead of us. That voice that's telling you you're behind is speaking from fears and not facts. Every person you admire went through their own version of sitting in a car, having a breakdown, wondering if they'll ever figure it out. The difference is they kept showing up anyway. They kept showing up anyway. I want to talk about the shame spiral. And I'm not going to tell you to just think positive, like I said earlier, and watch your problems disappear. That's not how life works. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? The shame spiral that you constantly put yourself in is optional. Let me repeat that. The shame spiral that you're constantly putting yourself in is optional. You can acknowledge disappointment without destroying yourself. You can feel frustrated without deciding that you are fundamentally flawed. You can want more without hating where you are. Now, this takes practice, and I still catch myself in the comparison trap and that shame spiral sometimes. But the difference now is I know how to climb out faster. So remember that shame spiral that you're constantly putting yourself in, it's actually paralyzing you and it's causing you to take inaction instead of action. So here's what I want you to do right now. The challenge to you in today's episode. Think about the last time you were really hard on yourself. Now imagine your best friend came to you with that exact same failure. Write down what you would tell them. Write it down. Don't just keep it in your mind. I legit mean like write it down, type it out, whatever, then read that back to yourself. That voice that you're speaking in and that you're reading in, that is the voice you deserve to hear in your own head. Because here's what I learned after years of constantly beating myself up: you're exactly where you need to be. You are exactly where you need to be. You are learning exactly what you need to learn. You are becoming exactly who you're meant to become. That there are, I don't believe God makes mistakes. I think that there are things that we can learn in life right now. Now, your timeline isn't broken. I need you to understand that your timeline is yours, and that's exactly as it should be. Stop measuring your worth by someone else's milestones. You're not behind, you're on your own path, and that path is leading somewhere beautiful. Even when you can't see it yet, I promise you, it is leading somewhere beautiful. So that's all for today's video, folks. But if you want to check out more, I have this episode that focuses on the dangers of endless content consumption. It's linked right over there. With that being said, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button for more. This is Dexter signing out.